The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show, and hey, we're the She-Squatchers. I'm Jen Cruz, your host, and I've got my trusty teammates on the line. I've got Jenna Grover.
Hey there.
And Tammy Trikel.
Hi, everybody.
We have a super exciting guest for you tonight. I got a little message from my friend Doug Hychek, who was the producer of Monster Quest. He says, "Hey, Jen, I got a guy for you to come on your show. I just published his new book on Bigfoot. Won't you come have a talk with him?" I said, "Yes, we'd love to talk with him." He comes very highly recommended there. So, hey, we want to welcome Jay Vernon to the show. Hi, Jay.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for
Hi.
having me on the show tonight.
Oh, we're so excited to hear about your story. We know that you're from Wisconsin, and I'm in Minnesota, and Jenna's in North Dakota. So I'm excited to hear about what's going on and what's been going on in Wisconsin in the world of Bigfoot. How did you get into this? Interesting.
Well, it started a long time ago when I was a kid, actually. We had moved from the Milwaukee area after my father had retired from the military. And my mom wanted to stay in the city, but my dad said he wanted to go back to his roots and go to a farm. So we bought a farm up by the Dells, just north of Briggsville, out in the middle of nowhere. Briggsville's a little unincorporated town that really doesn't have very many people or much going on there. It literally had a general store, a couple little bars and restaurants, and a post office, and that was about it. And, you know, voluntary fire department things. So very small, about 350 people, 400 people maybe at most that lived up there, and still about the same. So it's very small. But as far as getting into the Bigfoot situation I was out by the horses. We had a bunch of animals when we inherited the farm. We got some animals, some horses and cows and chickens and, you know, pigs, things like that. So I grew up on the farm liking all these animals and all, and I love the horses the most. And I was about 4 years old, and I went out back in the horses pen, kind of reached up towards the woods area. So it was behind all of our farm buildings. And we had a gated area that we kept closed and all. And the horses really didn't like to go up by the woods for some reason. And I could never ever them through my entire childhood, all the way up through, you know, I was 18 years old, could never get the horses to go into the woods to go ride. I thought it'd be great. There was a trail that went up in there. So, you know, in a roundabout, and it just went through about 3/4 of our woods. One day I was petting the horses in back, and all of a sudden I hear this grunt, and just a, and I turned and looked, and I didn't see anything, but the horses started to freak out a little bit, and I went, okay, what's going on? And I started to pet them, but they were just really rattled. Then I went to turn around because I heard a branch crack from that same area. It's about 75 yards away. So it had to have been a pretty big branch. It was late in the evening, so the sun was starting to set, and there was this orange glow across the hillside. And all of a sudden, this figure, very tall, very slim, walked across. And I just thought it was a person. And this thing just walked by me and just looked back at me like I was nothing really, just, you know, didn't wave or anything. But I was like 4 years old, so I went inside and I said, you know, Mom and Dad, I saw a man up there in the woods. And I said, you think he was wearing a cowboy hat? Just because you couldn't see very clearly, but the shape of the head made it look like a cowboy hat. And, you know, back then we used to watch a lot of Westerns, spaghetti Westerns back then. So, we had 3 channels on TV and 2 of them worked and the third one was always blurry, all staticky and black and white, dots running around. So, but my dad went and said, "Oh, that must be our neighbor." And I said, "Okay." So the next day we were down in town. We actually ran into him at the general store, picking up some things, some feed and all. And he asked me, he said, "Did you, go over by the fence over and you're checking out the fences or something?" He goes, "No, I haven't been out by the farm for at least a week or 2." And he goes, "Oh, you know anybody that might have been up there, maybe wearing a cowboy hat?" And he looked at my dad and said, "Nobody wears a cowboy hat around here. They all wear, farm hats, DeKalb hat or something like that, So yeah, that was my first instance of seeing something that I wasn't sure what was going on. And it started a situation where my mom said, "Well, it must be some hermit living up in the neighbor's woods or something." So from my time period from that point all the way till I actually had a sighting when I was 17, we thought it was a hermit, somebody just living either in our woods or in our neighbor's woods. So that was the beginning of it all.
So you never went out there, never tried to meet this hermit or even look at the area?
No,
Well, I
mean,
shouldn't say you because you were like 4 years old.
Yeah,
but...
I was a little kid at the time. And, and then through life, I became I have 4 brothers, and I became the one that did all the outside work, taking care of the animals. They helped. And then my father started an upholstery business. So that kind of got them all into the upholstery business. I did a lot of the auto stuff and learned that trade of the business. But as I kept getting older, I was more out in the woods. We had wood burning stoves back then. When we first started, we had a really old farmhouse and, built in like 1850 or something. So it was really old and it took a lot of wood to heat that. And then we started a shop in the barn and we were able to get a lot of wood for that. So we required a lot of wood to be cut. So I was up in the woods a lot and, using chainsaws and splitting wood and things. And, over the years, a lot of weird things happened up there that at the time I thought could have been my brothers. I have 2 older brothers that like to pick on me and stuff. So I always thought they were playing games. There was one instance where, they were throwing rocks at me. I thought it was them. And I was cutting wood, and rock comes flying. At first, I thought it was a nut from a tree, like a squirrel was dropping nuts and things, which I've seen. But I looked over and it was a rock. And so I picked it up and it was about a 2-inch size rock. And I, started going, what the heck? You really don't find rocks laying around in the woods. It's always covered in foliage. And so I, picked up the rock and just kind of tossed it aside, not thinking too much of it at that point. And then a couple minutes later, I could hear one come sailing through the tree leaves, just through the leaves. And I thought, who's throwing rocks at me? So I went over and picked it up, another, 2 or 3-inch size rock. I just said, "All right, you guys knock it off. You're going to hit me." I thought they're going to hit me with a rock. So I just burned it back at them and threw it as hard as I could. And I could hear it hit a tree, 50 yards away. And just a big, but I didn't hear anything else or see anything at that point. So there's so many instances where another one was, I was probably my favorite one that happened. And I really didn't realize most of these things were even, related to possibly being Bigfoot, because one of the things was I heard I had been cutting wood and then we had like a break. I was up in the woods, had the truck up there and I was chopping a bunch of wood and I went down for lunch. My dad called me down for lunch. And then I came back up about an hour and a half later and I walked up to the truck and I could see a big buck straight across, probably about 75 yards away from me in a small clearing on the other side of our fence in our neighbor's woods. But all of a sudden, this is, I guess, everybody's favorite part, but I heard this on the right-hand side, loud and clear, couldn't understand a word. Then over to the left side, I hear this much higher pitched, but still very loud. Didn't know what it was. And I thought, it's summertime. I don't know why my neighbors are hunting right now, or even bow hunting wasn't open at that point. So I'm trying to figure out, what's going on, but I didn't want to disturb it because I didn't want to get shot, or, if they're bow hunting, or if it's illegal hunters, you have land out there, and a lot of times people go hunting on property they shouldn't. So you never know what it is. So I waited, and then I just started picking up logs and setting them up to be chopped, and the deer was gone. So I thought, weird. But I had heard that vocalization twice, and then again, I don't know what that is. But next thing you know, the deer's gone, and I go, for our neighbors, I yelled out really loud. I said, "Hey, are you guys up here? I'm over here. I just didn't want to get shot or anything." And no response. So I yelled again, no response. And the thing was, it was so loud for those noises. I was just as loud as they were. So I don't know why nobody heard me. So the next day I go down to his farm. He was coming out of the milk house. And I said, "Were you up in your woods back there hunting or something yesterday?" He goes, "No, we don't go that far back," because they live about a mile down the road. So I thought, well, I don't know who it was, but maybe it was, legal hunters or something. He goes, "I don't know why. Did you see something?" I go, "No, but I heard something." And I told him, the sounds, and he goes, "Huh, maybe my brother wasn't crazy after all." And I go, "Don't know what that means, but okay." But the thing was that we had bought the property we got it because his brother had got into a car accident and was killed. So we ended up buying the property. So that's how, and his brother was the one that owned it. So, I guess later that this situation was that the brother had mentioned something to him about it previously, and nobody really spoke of it. And back, this is 60s, 70s, and 80s that we had it. And so, people really didn't talk about stuff like that back then at all. So as far as other situations that happened, there was a time where I was cutting wood. I had the truck loaded, and I just kind of peeked up, and it was getting dark out, and I was trying to hurry up and get out of the woods. And I normally didn't go up there in wintertime, and I didn't go up there during the, darkness and stuff. There's, one point we saw a wolf, and the DNR had caught that. So I always had guns in the truck and stuff and keep them close just in case there's wolves or cougars or bears or something. But there's time I was chopping wood, and I was throwing wood in the truck, and I looked over, and it, over this big ravine in the valley, probably about 75, 80 yards away. And I'm looking, and I'm like, it looks like a gorilla sitting there. And I thought, no, my mind's playing tricks on me. I think it's a stump or something. So I finally get the truck loaded, and I look, and it's still there. And I turned the truck around, and I thought, well, I'm going to point the lights at it so I can see better. And I'm like, okay, I don't see that at all anymore. So that totally disappeared. So I'm like, I went back there the next day, and I walked across the ravine, and I walked up, and I'm like, it's all beaten down right there, like something was sitting and standing there. So that's another instance that led up to going, I don't know what that was. Weird things that you kind of, in your mind, you play tricks, and it's like, yeah, I don't know what that is. So
I get it. I totally get that. Boy, sometimes, well, in Texas, it was pretty sunny, and I didn't have my sunglasses on, and by golly, I thought that a garbage can was a person. I was like, why aren't they moving? I was so scared for them. Oh, gosh, embarrassing.
Right.
But no, I mean, that happens all the time. We always think we're seeing things, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
just like the faces in the clouds and stuff,
exactly.
Right. There's an instance where I was getting ready for football, and I got all of our pads, we take them home and stuff. And I thought I'm going to try them on, and I was running up and down the hill and, challenging myself to beat because it's a pretty steep hill. So I was challenging myself to, get better and better times each time. And
Sure.
I put my shoes on, and every time I got up there, I was, all right, I'm beating it. And And finally, I got up there and I put my shoes on and I counted it down, and I was probably like 5 seconds quicker than the whole time I had been up doing it. And I thought, this is great. And I started, doing like rock, like, yeah. And I started yelling. And then all of it, out of the woods came this rock clattering, like angrily rock clapping. I didn't know what that was. And I was just like, I got chills all over me. I'm like, it must be this hermit guy, he's mad I'm yelling, or he's, upset I've disturbed his peace and quiet or something.
Mhm.
I don't know, but there's so many instances, that I had up there that I just never knew about. And like the voice thing, I didn't know about that until I was watching a Russian show
Mhm.
about the Russian, whatever they call them over there, the Bigfoots over there. And he did the voice, and I went, that's really similar to what I heard. So instantly I went, okay, now maybe that's another situation that was now pointing towards a Bigfoot versus a hermit or somebody playing tricks or illegal hunters, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mhm.
So a lot of these things I did not add up until later. Even after I saw it, a lot of these things I didn't realize might be something that was part of what they do. So there was a time where I built a cabin up in the woods. My dad was off to San Diego because my oldest brother went into the Marine Corps. So he was graduating from boot camp. So I went and kind of took some extra time for myself while he was gone. He was a hard guy he was ex-military, everything was yes sir, no sir. And, you didn't have to salute him, but everything else for sure. And he kept us busy all the time, with the farm work, the upholstery work, everything. And I kind of took time for myself while he was gone, and I decided to build a log cabin up in the, just a little fort, probably like 8 by 10, and about 8 feet tall or so. And had to use the tractor. I cut all these logs, and nice straight logs, and stacked them up and everything, and put a roof on it. I even used a bunch of, because of the fields, you always get all these stones that you turn up with the plow and disc and stuff, so it doesn't get damaged. You throw them along the edge of the field and stack them up. But I took the bucket load of with the tractor and brought up all these flagstones and stones and stuff, and built a fireplace inside of it and everything. I thought it was pretty cool, and put a door on it and everything. A day or two later, I had went down and catching up with work, but I went back up in the woods, and sure enough, I turned left and it was obliterated, like leveled, logs thrown everywhere. And I was going, okay, I don't know what the heck happened. It must have been my brother Andy found it and was being mean and ran it over with the tractor or something. And so I turned around, went right back down, and my brother was working in the upholstery shop, and my mom was there, and I was mad. And so I was yelling at him. I said, what'd you do that for? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, you tore my cabin apart. And he's like, I have no clue what you're talking about. So I don't know what happened, but most of these logs are 250, 300 pounds. And they were thrown, and they were thrown where trees were, like trees were 4 inches were smashed, thrown over them, through them, you know what I mean? And I looked around and I was like, I don't know what happened here, but I just cut everything up because I wasn't going to try again. So I didn't have time like that ever. And my dad was coming back. So just another instance of, I don't know what else could have thrown those logs around like that. And there was no proof of my brother doing it. My mom said, well, he's been down the shop this whole time. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Wow, that would be really, that takes a lot of work to build a cabin like that.
Yeah, I had all the logs cut. I was going to drag them down, and I thought, no, I'm going to make a cabin, out of these, because my dad was gone, and I'm a kid, I'm going to goof off once in a while, but I knew I could catch up with my work, and but yeah, it was really frustrating. I didn't know, and the whole time I still thought it was my brother, but I don't know who else would have done. I didn't think the hermit could have even done that, so I thought you needed a tractor to do it. So it was very, very frustrating.
Well, and growing up, now that you're adults, you'd think that he would come clean if it had been him, right?
You would think so, and he still, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, he didn't know, he still even didn't know I had a cabin up there. And I cut up all the wood and just took it down and used it because it helped me catch back up. So for sure. Oh, there's so many instances. We had I went hunting for the first time, and I had got my gun license. I was all excited to go hunting, and you go up in the woods, and I got to go up this hill, and we had dogs, but we didn't let the dogs go in the woods ever because in the down around there, if your dog got caught chasing deer, they would shoot it on sight. So anybody would, and so you didn't want to have that happen. So you never brought your dogs up in the woods ever. You'd scold them if they even came close. And I got out. It was probably like 4:15 in the morning, and it doesn't get light at that time of the year. It's late November, around Thanksgiving when you go up hunting the week before. And I started climbing up the hill, and I was about halfway up, and all of a sudden I hear this coming towards me, like something is sprinting at me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm thinking it's a deer, first of all. And it was loud, just crashing towards me. And I'm like, oh boy, oh boy. I started to lower my gun because I don't know what it is. And all of a sudden I get wiped out. Something hit me in the legs, and I look, and it's our dog, Smokey, a German Shepherd. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? I said, get back down to the farm. But out of my left, I could hear something still going, and as I yelled, you could hear it go, and like this skidding noise. And I thought it was a buck, so I just yelled some more, get out of here. And I thought, all right, that's going to ruin my hunting for sure. So then I decided to go way down to the bottom of our woods. So we had a high end, which was really high, and then there's a valley and low and stuff. So I walked all the way down there, sat down there for a while, didn't see anything, very uneventful. Saw some deer, but they were too far away. So I started walking back up through our woods, and I ended up seeing, a couple does and things like that, but nothing that I wanted to shoot. And so I came out after, several hours, and I started walking down over the top of the hill, and you could see in the tall grass where I had been walking up, and the dog had ran into me. So I wanted to go see if this was a deer that was chasing it because it's light out now. It was kind of raining and stuff, but I found the trail, and I walked up to the end of it, and you could see two big, prints that were sliding sideways, like this thing stopped on a dime. And in these footprints, you could see toes. And I thought, this hermit guy must have been chasing the dog away or something. And I was like, not thinking it would be a Bigfoot or anything at that point still. So it was an instance where I go, I don't know what, but it must have been that hermit guy again. So he just keeps popping up, and we had another instance where my dad wanted to confront this hermit. He told me to go make a count on the pigs and stuff. He was at this point where he wanted to get rid of the farm animals and do more upholstery and stuff, so more business-like. So he decided to have me count all the animals, and he was going to take inventory and, sell them off and things like that. So I walked out there, and I said, there's only 12 pigs out there. We had 13. He goes, well, where's the other one? I go, must have got out. He goes, check the fence. I go, I already did. I said, doesn't look like it dug out anywhere. And we use these big, heavy pallets, and I had them secured in and with bars and everything. So there was no way this pig was going to jump over it. It was probably a 250-pound, 300-pound pig. And we had sows that were, 8 feet long that weighed probably 600 pounds, 700 pounds too. So, and maybe more, but they were huge. And and this fence pen area really went up towards the woods area. So I thought, well, maybe something jumped in and ate it. I looked around in the pen. There's nothing there. There's no sign of blood or, a carcass or anything. So I could see that there was prints, like you could see in the tall grass behind the pen to the woods, that there was a lot of, like you could see somebody walked up through there. And I thought maybe this hermit guy stole one of our pigs. So I went and told my dad because I didn't want to go confront this hermit guy on my own. And so my dad grabs the guns. He says, let's go find out. We looked around the fence again, didn't find any ways for this thing had dug out or anything. And so we walked up, followed the trail, and we got up into the woods and we got a breath of something that was just rancid, just stunk so bad. I mean, it was sour roadkill, hot roadkill, you know, just you expect to find something with maggots in it. It was gross. And so we were following, and you could see in a clearing, there was grass up there too. And in the clearing, we followed the footprints, and we got all the way to the back of our woods, and we climbed over the fence because it kept going into our neighbor's woods. And about 20, 25 feet past there was a rock cliff and just a little ledge and hollowed out underneath, and you could make a bed out of it. And you could see it was all matted down like something has been laying in there. And it just reeked just like that rancid smell. But there was no carcass, and we looked around and everything. And so my dad's thinking this hermit guy, this is a place he sleeps or lays or whatever. And so he fires off the gun, you know, the 30-30, and shoots it in the air and yells out, this is our property, stay off our property, you know, all that, you know, and then puts the bullet casing on there. And he wanted me to grab the pine boughs and stuff that were mashed down in there. I started to reach down in there. I'm like, it stinks. I just grabbed one and threw it away. But yeah, it was disgusting. So we walked back, but the whole time we're thinking, again, this is a hermit or something, not anything that's, you know, it's like a human, you know. So we weren't sure.
Wow, that's neat. I mean, both your father and yourself out looking for this hermit,
Yeah.
and you find pretty much evidence of Bigfoot, right?
Well, I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know if that was Bigfoot there, but you know,
Oh.
like I said, everything I know, the only thing I know and the only thing I can tell you is when I was 17 was when I actually ran into it. But, you know, and that situation was, I was coming back from a baseball game, and my neighbor that I played ball with, you know, we were riding bikes back from it was 3 miles away. So we rode our little bikes and stuff. And he was saying he rode on the snowmobile trails. And I go, oh, that snowmobile trail goes right up behind our woods. And that's exactly where I first saw what I thought was the hermit in the corner. So it wasn't, you know, this was like 15 years later. So I started riding with him on the snowmobile trail, and he lives like halfway to our house from Briggsville, from town. So we get towards his house, he leaves, and I kept riding on the trail. I decided I'm going to go home, check in real quick, and then, you know, pump up my tires because it's muddy, and I'm not riding on a road where it's a harder surface and easier to ride. So I wanted to make sure it was easier to ride because my tires are a little bit low. So I filled up my tires and I decided to go up, you know, behind our house, which is a big hill, and over the top of the hill, and there's, you know, it's really wavy and stuff up in the woods. So I thought that would be fun for, you know, for me to go flying up and down these little hills. And so I decided to go. I could have went down and it would have been easy to ride back the way I went, but I didn't want to do that. So I got speed up and I went flying up this hill, and I get over to the top of the hill, and all of a sudden I'm at the top, and I'm, you know, I really had to book it to get up this hill. I just kind of had my head down trying to finish the hill. And as I crested the hill, I kind of peeked up and I saw a really hairy leg. Like I thought it was a bear. And I instantly slid, like, you know, I don't want to run into that. So I slid sideways. And as I was sliding sideways, I'm looking up going, oh my God, this is, you know, terrible. I'm looking up and I'm seeing a hairy leg. I'm seeing a big hand that was on the tree just turned and open. And he looks at me, and I'm looking up, and I'm on top of a bike sliding sideways. And then he kind of goes, he does this lean back, and he tucked his mouth together, like, but his eyes were wide open, like he was surprised. We had a cow just over the hill, tied up, grazing on a grass area by a tree. And, you know, you do that we only had a couple cows at the time left. So, but my dad, you know, would tie him up and feed them here and there, other than keeping them in the pasture. And it was free food, So, but I slid sideways and I was kicking up leaves and dust. And as it went back, it looked down like I was kicking stuff, but it opened up like it was gonna catch me if I kept coming. And it's probably about, when I first saw it, it was probably 20 feet. And when I stopped, probably 15 feet when I finally stopped, and I instantly just turned around and took off. But I flew back down that hill, and when I hit the road, I mean, I hit it so hard it hurt, and I flew up to the house on my bike, threw the bike at the door and just ran in. My dad was sitting at the table, and I said, I just saw a Bigfoot, and I was scared to death. And he goes, he said some naughty words, and he said that they don't exist. And I said, I really saw it. And he goes, old baloney, go up there. So I'll finish my story shortly.
Yeah, we're going to have to take our commercial break, but we're going to come right back with the rest of that story. Stay tuned, everybody. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Yay. It's going by fast. Hopefully it's fast
is.
for you too.
Oh, Doug and I was like an hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, he said it was going to be a half hour. So I was, okay, I'll keep talking.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying your stories.
Me
So-
too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about it really. I'll probably get into that too, but maybe ask that when we come back, and I'll.
The guests are enjoying you as well. They said that
Are
you're a
they?
very pleasant guest.
Oh, thank you. I tried.
Cool.
Sorry, I was unhooking. I realized partially the way through that my laptop wasn't actually plugged in. So I was like, oh no. And then
We could have lost you.
I know, then I was tangled with my headset. So I'm better now.
Oh,
Yeah, exciting. Oh. It's been a long day.
for sure. I'm old. This is past my bedtime.
You're not old. How old are you?
56.
That's not old. Jenna's
No.
birthday is tomorrow. Happy
Mhm.
birthday, Jenna.
Happy
40
birthday
again.
to me. Yes, 40 again. Thank you
Yeah.
so much
Right.
for remembering.
Right. That's my problem. I have a good memory.
Oh, you have a great memory.
All right, getting ready, guys. It should be soon. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Hey, we're the She-Squatchers. Why don't you check us out online at she-squatchers.com. And right there, you can find our events page right at the top of the link, and you can click that to see where we're going. It's been updated to just today. We had our April event was pushed to October. They rescheduled the Washington event for Yakima Valley Bigfoot Conference has been pushed into October, which is great. I'm excited for it. And it's going to be a good time of year to be out there. So I'm looking forward to that. And then in May, we're going to be at the WNC Bigfoot Festival, which is in North Carolina. So we can't wait for that. And then in June, we'll be in Medline Falls, Washington with Ron Moorhead and David Paulides and Amy Boo with Project Zoo Book, a bunch of other people. So we're excited to be there. They're going to have a bunch of, I think there's like 3 VIP dinners that you all can sign up for to have dinner with us. That would be fun to meet and hang out with people. So hope to see everybody there. We've got some other events coming up in September. We haven't finalized all the details yet, so we haven't shared them, but look for that. There, we're talking maybe Oregon, September, and also Texas. So, woohoo. I just want to also say that tomorrow is Jenna's birthday. Happy birthday to Jenna, everybody. Happy birthday
Happy
to Jenna.
birthday, Jenna.
Thank you. Thank you.
And please do subscribe to our YouTube channel at She-Squatchers Official. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, where you can find us there. I did just write a blog today on our website at shesquatchers.com. you can go check out our thermal video that was restabilized. So I shared it there so you can have easy access to it. All right, so back to the show. We've got Jay Vernon. He's the author of Adams County Bigfoot book, which you can find on Amazon and all the other places where you can find books. And he was just sharing a story where he saw Bigfoot when he was a young man, and he's run home to tell his dad he just saw Bigfoot, and then to be continued.
Yep, I told my dad, and he didn't believe me. So he said, "Go get that cow off the hill." And I said, "Oh, I'm not going to get the cow off the hill." I ran downstairs. I was literally petrified. You know, I'm almost 17 years old, and I just saw this, and it didn't click with me that if it was a bear or even a mountain lion, I'm not going to be that scared of it. I'm going to be safe, and I'm going to make sure I retreat safely. But as soon as I saw this, I knew to get out of Dodge. And my dad wanted me to go up the hill, but I do think my dad took a grain of salt with it, because he literally grabbed the guns, his pistol, and went up to go get the cow. So if he thought I saw a bear maybe. And then my mom thought, "You sure it wasn't a bear?" And I said, "Mom, I know this was not a bear." I said, "You have to believe me." She goes, "Well, there's some black bears possibly in the area. You never know." And I said, "It wasn't a bear, Mom. I'm just telling you. A bear does not look like that. Is not that tall. And, we might have a black bear around, but I've never even seen one." So I hid down in the basement where we have a garage and a window out looking the back. So I saw my dad actually walk up the hill with the gun in his hand to go get the cow off the tree and bring it back to the pen. So, yeah. So he had to believe me a little bit, I think, or something dangerous up there. So, yeah. I think he trusted me enough to know that I wasn't going to lie about things. So that's.
Well, and had you ever said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go get the cow"?
No, and that's the thing. You never said no to him. There was no reason. If you wanted to stay alive as a kid, you wanted to listen and do what he said. So, yeah, that would have been, I thought I was going to get, death after that. But, he just shook it off as whatever. Just
Scared
another one
kid.
of those whatever situations,
So
Yeah.
how long did it take you to actually get back out there?
It took me a while, as for cutting wood, I kind of said, my dad would say, "Go cut some wood." And I'll be like, "Should we do those, car seats first, and then I'll get back out there?" And he's like, "Fine, go do the car seats and then go cut wood and stuff." So I found a lot of things to do around the farm. And I said, "There's some wood here I can split up that I brought down before." And I just stayed around the farm, but I was very wary. I literally looked everywhere. The night I saw it, I laid in bed looking out the window, and I had curtains drawn, but I was just waiting for something just reach in and grab me. I just thought, I'm done for. I was petrified. And
you're almost an
Right.
adult too. So,
Right.
I mean, it's not like you're a kid.
Right. And grow up on a farm, you start doing things at 5 years old. I literally started working on the farm at 5 and helping around the upholstery shop at 5. We'd take apart bar stools and little kitchen chairs and things like that, and take the staples and tacks out. So, and then graduated into the bigger furniture, and then I started doing auto upholstery. So, but yeah, it was and then once I started having to get away from the farm again, I went along the field edge away from the woods and all the way down in the bottom of the woods, as far away from where I had the siding as possible to cut wood. But I literally had my head on a swivel, making sure that, there was nothing there. But I'd hear a stick, break, and I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. So yeah, it took a while. It still lingers with me, and I didn't want to talk about it really with anybody, because even my parents didn't believe me. And it took me, my wife to say, "You should take notes and write this stuff down. You're telling me all these stories that, now that you're figuring out this stuff." So I wrote the stuff down, and she goes, "That's pretty interesting. You should maybe write it a little more elaborately, more detailed, and maybe turn it into a book." So I did, and I turned it in, and they ran with it. So it took a lot for me to want to open up with this. And now, even now, I'm kind of "Oh, I got to talk about this stuff." Okay. I'm older now and it's like, whatever, but when you're younger, you kind of go, yeah, and people don't believe you. And it hurts you a little bit. Like, you don't want to be known as a liar. You don't want to be known as somebody that's going to tell fibs and things like that. And I went to, I've told a couple friends at school and they laughed at me. I told another friend that was standing there, he overheard, and he's Native American, and the thunderclouds. And I said, yeah, I really did see it. He goes, you should talk to my dad. He talks about those things all the time. So I said, okay, I'll come over. So I went over and I talked to his dad, and his dad said, he goes, yeah, those are the wild men, the men of the woods. We think of them as our brother, and we don't bother them and they don't bother us. But we've known about them forever. We've passed it down generation after generation, and they're even on totem poles, he said. I was like, really? And I was shocked that he actually believed everything I said. He goes, well, I 100%. I don't doubt you one bit. And I felt relieved, but then I didn't know who to talk to after that, So if you go to a psychologist and say, hey, I need to talk to you about something, it's Bigfoot, they might not even want to talk to you. So yeah, it's that kind of a crazy thing. So, but now it's much more open, so now you get yesterday I had a researcher that came and talked to me from just outside of Madison, and Dan wanted to find out more about this situation, and he's actually very smart, very reputable, and he went to college and became a herpetologist, all about reptilians and things. So, and he's a nature wildlife photographer, so, and very well known in the community. And I thought it was very interesting that people wanted to come talk to me about this and hear about it, and and take it seriously, So very, very good for all this stuff to be coming out right now, for sure.
The more you talk about it, the more comfortable you're going to be talking about it.
Right.
I found that to be true, because I was scared to tell people I was going to go look for Bigfoot. I didn't want to even tell my closest friends that I was going to go look for Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the people that criticize us the most are going to be the ones that, they don't know the much about it. And they also, some of these people that have their own sightings, but don't want to hear yours, which is interesting. So, and I thought, okay.
I think we learn from every story that we hear. We learn something from that.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so many instances that brought it all together that, I wanted to write this out, and my wife being the number one thing that just kind of pushed me in that direction to open up about it. And I kind of felt relieved once I wrote it. Then I got a little bit scared once it was being published. I'm like, and then people wanted to talk to me about it. And so it was hard, but I'm getting over it all. So there's so many instances that I could think of that, happened up on the farm that I could think it might be, related to Bigfoot. You never know. And I never was one to jump to conclusions. I was always one that, yeah, I see it to believe it, And, even when that first Bigfoot movie came out with the Patterson film and all, like in 1975, I never saw that. I wanted to watch it. I saw the commercial for it, and my dad, you got work to do. You don't have time for that. So I didn't watch that. I don't think I saw a Bigfoot show until I was like 30 years old. And I, something like Finding Bigfoot or the Monster Quest, things like that. So it's good that it's all coming out right now.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't see the Patterson Gimlin film growing up either. And, I really hadn't been exposed to anything like that until I was fully into adulthood. And even then I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I never even thought that it was a real thing.
Right. Yeah, UFOs, I don't know. I've seen some weird things in the sky, but I don't know what they are either. So.
Well, that's a classic UFO, unidentified flying object. It's not necessarily a spacecraft.
Right. Yesterday, Dan reminded me of something that I didn't even put in the book, and that was there was a time where I was up in the woods. Everything kind of deals with me being up in the woods. I probably spent thousands of hours cutting wood, up in the woods. So as a kid growing up and being on the farm, and I would even walk through the woods just to get away from everything. Because like I said, my dad was kind of hardcore, and I'm kind of quiet, and I stayed away from him. I don't like drama. I don't like mean people and things like that. So, but I was up in the woods, and I was splitting wood, and I'm hearing, I thought somebody else was splitting wood in the background and in our neighbor's wood. So I'm like, okay, somebody else is splitting wood. But, it happened a few times, and I would split and then, hit the wood, and then I'd hear it again, and then I'd split, and then I'd hear it again. So I stopped, and I was like, I don't hear anything. And then I split again, and I hear somebody splitting wood. So that was my first time hearing tree knocks, I guess. So it really wasn't splitting wood. Nobody was splitting wood up there. And another instance was I was, again, up in the woods, and I was driving the trailer back, the truck, and I stopped because I saw a branch, and I threw it in the back, to add it to the wood. And I'm looking up, and I'm like seeing this tree, just one tree. There's no wind or anything going on at the time, but this one tree just thrashing around about, 50 yards into the woods. It's pretty dense there. Can't see anything. I'm like, why is that one tree just crashing back and forth like that? And no other trees doing it around it. I was like, okay, that's just chalk it up. That's weird, and moved on, And, there was a time where I went camping with our brothers up there, and we only did it once. We only went camping once up there. Not because anything weird happened, but it just happened to where we don't do that very often. And we went up in the woods, and we had cut, we had a saw, and we were cutting wood to put on the fire and stuff. And, we cooked pizza burgers or something like that on a little grill, and had pizza burger sandwiches. And it was fun, And, my two older brothers are, picking on me a little bit here and there. And I would just go out and pick up more branches. I wanted a big fire, I thought it was cool. And we slept that night and everything, no problems, didn't hear anything. We woke up in the morning, and there was a branch, probably like 2 or 3 inches, 3 inches in diameter. And it wasn't cut off a tree, it was ripped off a tree and laid on the hood of our truck. And I thought, that is weird. And my brother said, why would you throw a branch on the truck hood like that? It's not a new truck or anything. It was a farm truck. So it wasn't like it was going to hurt anything, but he just asked me why I would do that. And I said, I didn't do that. And all the branches I cut. So they weren't, that thing's ripped off. And you couldn't see any. I was looking around like, I don't see where that thing was. But they're like, pack it up, let's go, So another weird instance and all. So, and to get away and kind of be by myself a little bit, my dad would get into his moods and things, so I'd just go out, and the back side of our house had a washroom that was kind of half in the ground, and I'd climb up on that and then climb up on top of our roof. And I would lay there and just look at the stars. I'd actually turn out we had a big yard light. It was like a street light, and we had a power switch, and I'd turn it off, and I'd be able to look at the stars. I mean, you out there back then, you could see so many stars, and it was, I just kind of enjoyed that kind of thing, wondering, go be a astronaut or something like that. And I was sitting there or laying there looking up, and I hear, and it's pitch black out, and I hear in our neighbor's woods, kind of where I saw the hermit the first time, I'm hearing this like wood splitting noise again. I'm like, who's chopping wood up here? And there's no lights. So, and I can tell exactly where it's coming from. I'm like, there's no lights at all. I'm like, okay, that's just weird. And it did it like 4 or 5 times and stopped. I didn't hear anything. I just thought, it's just another thing that I thought of later, like, that was weird, just another instance.
Oh, that does sound weird.
Yeah.
I can really relate to this growing up on the farm, because I grew up on a hobby farm in Minnesota, and we were milking cows by hand, had chickens, pigs, and all that. So I totally get that. Sometimes the animals would disappear or get stolen by something out there. A lot of times it was raccoons or, weasels or fox.
Foxes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they go after the chickens, and we had turkeys, and part of one of my chapters is where I was out in the field and I was bringing in some. The DNR dropped off some turkeys, and I was picking corn. Our corn picker broke, so I was picking the cornfield by hand, and I saw the DNR drop off turkeys, and I just went over there and started throwing. I ripped off some kernel corn and threw it their way, and they started following me. So I just kept doing that and got them into the pen and stuff. And we had turkeys then at that point, and then ducks, and yeah, it was pretty interesting. And life on the farm was great, having all these animals, and they were my friends basically, And I had two older brothers that picked on me, and then a younger brother that I got along with really well, and we played sports and stuff together and all. And then my littlest brother, he was so young that we didn't do much together either. So, but yeah, you just kind of go your ways. And the farm was just a good place to grow up and have all these experiences. But I didn't expect to have all these experiences and realize what they were. So
Exactly. Well, you were lucky to have horses. I didn't get to have a horse. I asked for a horse, but he said, you don't need a horse. We have a tractor. And I'm like, but I want to ride a horse. He says, well,
right.
you have a cow, ride that.
Oh,
So I
doable.
did.
It's
I rode
doable.
my Jersey cow.
Yep.
I didn't know he was kidding.
Were you back? Were you bareback?
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to
She
ride
was-
bareback too.
She was really tame. I pulled her out myself. I pulled her from her mama, and
Oh.
I bottle fed her in the yard. And Jersey cows, they look like little deer fawns when they're calves. And she didn't have spots, but they look like little deer. And I bottle fed her from the time she was born, and I always gave her a hug, but when she would come up for her bottle, and then when I started carrying water out to pasture to her, she would come running to the trough, and I'd put the water down and give her a hug, and then I'd pour it into the bin where the water was supposed to be. One day I was in a hurry, and I was always carrying these 5-gallon pails of water, 2 of them, and I was in a hurry, so I just started pouring the water, and she knocked me into that bin, that water trough, because I did not give her a hug first.
Uh-oh. Attitude.
Yeah.
I did that once to Jen too. She didn't hug me either. I was just like, come on. I'm just teasing.
So yeah, I grew up on a farm, but more of a hobby farm where we grew, raised, and hunted almost everything we ate. So I totally can relate. We heated our really old farmhouse with wood furnace and wood stove, and we had an old wood cook stove in the kitchen for making food.
Right.
The old school way.
I can relate to the wood cutting too, because when I was living in Minnesota, Dale would cut all season long. And then sometimes in February, we'd run out of wood and he'd have to go cut some more. So yeah, it was a full-time job, that stuff.
Yeah. It was tough getting up in the woods during the winter time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you didn't go up there very often. So I wasn't in the woods during the wintertime almost ever. We would go sledding down that hill and stuff. And, when I was younger, there was a time where we had gone up sledding the first time. And my dad was actually with us, and he sent us sledding down the hill. And we kept coming back up. And at one point, the wind was coming from the north, and we smelled that stench, that real rancid stink. And my dad's like, it must be a dead animal somewhere nearby. But at that time, it was, probably like 20 degrees out. So this would have been frozen. So you're really not going to get that stink during the wintertime. So it kind of adds up that it really wasn't probably a dead animal at that point. Yeah. And I should tell you about one of the times that really kind of did it for me with what this might have been was my 2 older brothers and myself and one of my younger brothers were standing outside the back door. We just got done with breakfast and we're just kind of hanging out, chattering back and forth, laughing and stuff. And all of a sudden we hear this thunderous roar. I mean, you felt it. It was like a loudspeaker at one of the best nightclubs you ever been to. You standing next to it, it just vibrated. And it was so loud and obnoxious that my younger brother took off in the house, and my one older brother said, "What was that?" And my oldest brother said, "I don't know, but it sounds big." And we went in and told, our dad. I said, there's something made this huge noise, and my brother's like, "Yeah, it was really loud." And it was, that was pretty, like, it had to have been big. And my dad's like, "Whatever, you guys got work to do," and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It was turned it into something that wasn't okay. We don't get to talk about this. You know what I mean? So a lot of instances where you want to confide in somebody, and relate. And my dad wasn't really open to chitter chatter. He was more of a commander, type person. So the boss. Yep.
He was the boss. Totally get it. Totally understand. Yes. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell everybody more about your book. Of course,
Okay.
You're telling those stories in your book and more, but where can people find your book? What is it called?
It's called Adams County Bigfoot, and it's on Amazon. And if you go to hager1publishing.com, they show all the places that you can get it, even Barnes and Nobles. So, yep. Please buy
Awesome.
one. You'll have a
Yeah.
great read. I'm kind of biased.
Really? Well, I love the picture on the front cover too. That's a good picture.
And that looks a lot like it, and a lot of these researchers that have talked to me and called to me, they want a very, precise, description of this thing. And, I had 5 seconds of pure fear of seeing this thing and to describe it. But, this thing was built like a truck, and I knew there was, when I turned with my bike, I just knew I had to get out of there as quickly as possible. And I'm glad I was going downhill to get away, because if I would have been going uphill, I think I would have broke my chain, which I had done previously the week before, where I had gone over to the lake, and there's a big hill coming out of the lake, and I busted my chain, which wasn't too pleasant. So, and the whole thing I could think of was everything slowed down, slow motion. Like everything was like, whoa, like Matrix. And I could not, everything was so slow. I could not, think of anything other than don't break my chain, get out of here. So it was like pain, fear, like everything on your body hurt. So I don't know if anybody's experienced that, but I don't recommend it. A lot of people say, I want to run into one of these things and see them. I don't know,
Would you want to see another one?
They keep asking me if I want to go up there and show them the property, and I don't.
Is it still in your family?
Yeah, one of my older brothers and his wife live on the property now. So, and our neighbors behind us have clear cropped all the trees. So they had a lumber company come in and cut all the trees. So there's several hundred acres there that are just open now. They probably got small pine trees coming in and stuff. So, but even the farm doesn't look the same because they haven't farmed in 45 years up there. So
gotcha. Maybe they've moved out. Well, this has been a really great interview. I thank you for joining us tonight. And I just want to encourage everybody to go find Jay Vernon's book, Adams County Bigfoot, by Jay Vernon. Adams County Bigfoot. Go find it where all the places where you find books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Go get it. Go get it. Now, the rest of his stories in detail are in there. I'm sure you're going to want to check that out. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Remember to come and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And have a great week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.